All right, so we have a bet on whether or not Skip's actually going to show through on the live stream today because he says it's all
Yeah.
black on his side, and I'm like I'm sitting at 300 to 500 megs, so I think I'm good.
Yeah. Hopefully the audio comes through.
Yeah, the audio sounds great on my side. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, LinkedIn's being a bit of a jerk right now. It should be telling me we're live so I can see if you look good. So if you can see us, please let us know. Is Skip looking like a human being or is he some kind of robot on your side? And of course, everybody knows that I always look good. I've got my unicorn shirt on, got my nice backgrounds, and I'm here to inspire everyone. So, anyways, we're here today to talk about automated assessments. Is that what it was? Generate revenue through Whitespace. That's what it was. So, when I was in corporate IT, we talk a lot about gap analysis. Like, where are we? Where are we going? What don't we have? And a lot of times we'll use NIST or use some compliance platform to identify our gaps. And I got into the MSP world, and you guys use two different terms. You use white space analysis and use gap analysis. I hear both used interchangeably. Either way, the MSPs that are concerned about white space analysis or gap analysis are the ones who understand that consistent delivery is where you get revenue. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to just make money by working harder." That's not how it works. So you walk into a company and you might earn 60% of what you could because you didn't do a white space analysis. What do they currently have and where do they need to go? And that was the core of managed services platform before I bought it, was complete white space analysis and client engagement. How do you identify with your client where they are and where you need to take them? Give them that hero journey. And since then, I've had conversations with thousands of MSPs, literally thousands of MSPs. And some of them could care less about white space analysis. They know if they work that it's gonna work out just fine. They know that if they are able to deliver a good product, they'll be fine. What they don't talk about is what are they missing? Now, in the IT world, the corporate world, we ruled with an iron fist. If it was on our network, I own it and I could do with it what needed to be done. And so in the MSP world, you're kind of coming in and you've got to negotiate. It's not your world. You are a contractor. And so you got to ask permission on what to do. Even in the corporate world, we found random items and random gaps in our space. Like one time we found a Compaq, one of those big old like refrigerator sized servers in like 2009 that had been running a DB4 database and was tucked into a back closet. And for whatever reason, it never got picked up on our IP scanners. Now, I think the problem was that we had hundreds of thousands of IPs that were being leased and renewed and pushed around all the time. And it just got pushed away into the wash until the day it didn't work anymore. and
then things break.
Up to the tree and it got to my table as a desktop engineer, did not know what this thing was or where it was going. And I investigated. I'm like, ooh, oh, this is rough.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's a gap analysis, right? We missed that gap. Somebody misidentified that box or did not look at that IP and determine what that node was on the network. Or somebody did at some point because all of our ports were locked down. So at some point, somebody okayed this.
Somebody got in there. You know, I think one of the big values on the white space is identifying that big area. You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't go investigating, you're never going to find out about this stuff until it's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's just going to create more and more issues for you. So you've got to be very proactive about jumping into this white space analysis.
Yeah, and you have to define it. So it's an activity you have to do. What is our stack? As an MSP, can you answer that question? What is your stack right now? Tell me what it is. What's your standardized firewall? What's the deployment there? Not your best practices. I want to know what your actual thing, what you actually support. Do you support checkpoint firewalls? Do you support SonicWall? Do you support FortiGate? Do you support Cisco? Which ones do you want in your stack to manage? Now, once you've got that defined, things become a lot easier. You can hand that checklist to an intern, to an account manager, to somebody who's completely non-technical and say, go into the environment and look for these things. Stand at the rack and look for something that says Cisco on it. If it's 2600, I want to know. And so you can go down and do a checklist. Do they have gaps? They don't have a FortiGate firewall on here. I didn't find one. Go through the inventory. They have all PCs over 10 years old. That's a gap. Okay. Now, what are you going to do about that? Well, our automated response is we're going to replace with PCs that are inside our depreciation cycle. And so now you have a list of things to talk about consistently across all your companies. It's not relying on that one engineer to come in and evaluate everything. Anybody can run this gap analysis now. And now you don't end up with a Compaq server in a back closet because you're constantly reevaluating your customers for gaps and for white space. And you've got lots of employees who can do it and not just a couple.
Yes.
That's
and that's really important. I've been, I don't know, just the topic of conversations here of late have been around that delegation function. And that's something, if you want to do this at scale across your clients, you're going to have to break this down into chunks so that you can delegate this out. And it can become a simple process that anyone can do. Now, the outcome of that may take a little bit more evaluation or, you know, the gray matter sort of work that goes in on that. But you need that data set to begin to filter up. And it's not a giant report. You need the outliers. You need to identify the things that need to be discussed. And if you have great reports, and I've seen many tools and it has great data, but sometimes it focuses too much on all the things that are good.
Yep.
And that's not actually a tremendous amount of value. You need to focus on the things that aren't good so that you can begin working on those and get them into the good status. And too many of the conversations that I see or the reports that are shared, the general information is 95% of it is what is good. And it's these little bitty nuggets that get buried and lost that actually need to be the focus of those.
Yes.
So these gap analysis, and a comment here to kind of operational efficiency. I know that was like a huge, buzz term or whatever a couple of years ago, and I think it's died down a little bit, but there's a real value there in how efficient you can make your team run. And understanding that there may be at least a few things out there that are slowing your team down. You may have issues with a firewall, and yes, your team can support it, but you only have 1 or 2 team members that really know what to do. And so every time a ticket comes in on that, there's a delay in getting it taken care of. And maybe those team members have to be pulled off other projects or activities to work on those. And it makes you less efficient.
Yeah.
So there's a huge value in getting these items just queued up so that 1, your client gets the best value out of their technology. That's always important. But 2, you're able to operate efficiently. And there's a circle that goes there. The better you can support your client, the more value they're getting for their technology because you are part of their technology. So it's a nice little circle. And as that gets more efficient, your bottom line gets better as well, because now there's not as many tickets. Your clients aren't as noisy because there aren't all these issues out there. So it truly is a win-win situation.
Yeah. And you want to be able to consistently push this across the board, right? If you want to make it a win-win situation, it has to be like, hey, now your clients care about this, prioritize that. Now you care about this, prioritize that. Right now, what we see from MSPs on gap analysis, they're just prioritizing things that they care about. And like, oh, I really want them to have a new firewall. I get that. But right now they're trying to figure out how to make payroll. Okay, what is it that your client actually is prioritizing? And so the number of times I hear from an MSP, like, I know what my client needs. I know their gaps and what they need to fill. You know one piece, like a 10% part of their puzzle. You don't see the other 90%. So when it comes to gap analysis, it's just a piece. just a piece of what's going on. And then you have to ask your client what the rest of it that's going on. So this last week, we have been neck deep or eyeball deep or however deep you want to call it in figuring out what portions of a gap analysis can you automate. Now, this conversation goes back years. Actually, we've been discussing and rolling this around in our brains for years. On how do you automatically find gaps and then action items based on business needs out of your clients? And that's where our automated assessments have come from lately, which is why it's such a big topic. Which is why we're taking these 2 free weeks we have at the end of August here to really dive into what does it mean to do a gap analysis for your client and how do you benefit them and you at the same time. And again, as what Skip said, you're benefiting them and you're making a win-win out of this because it's something that they need and it's going to help them generate revenue, and it's something that is going to make your life easier because it's allowing you to accelerate and not take care of that crappy device that's on their network anymore, that distraction. So let me show you a little bit of what we're talking about. Are you still frozen up there, Skip? Oh, he lost his voice, guys.
All right. So I muted my mic to make sure we weren't having any other issues, but yeah, I'm here. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a browser issue. Anyway, technical problems. Maybe I ought to get an IT company to help me out.
Get an IT guy to come in and help you out.
Yeah, I'm sure I can find one somewhere.
Yeah.
So this is, we get a lot of people asking about these types of things, and it really is. We're even struggling with some names. What do we call this?
Yeah.
And the gap analysis that we have out there, there is an expert level to it. There is a guided flow that you run through on these, and that is something I want to set expectations, but that's something that's never going to be automated, right? And if you're looking for a tool that's going to automate the business goals of your client, you're looking in the wrong space. You are going to have these conversations, but where can we automate some things? Where are just the simple, hey, if this old device is out there, I need to be notified about it so that I can have a conversation. It's still going to come down to having those conversations, not presentations.
Correct.
Back to our old tagline, that is still going to be an important element of these.
So in this automation point, so a lot of people ask us, how do we automate reports? How can I just send my client an email automatically so I don't have to meet with them? That's not the point. Well, you want to automate a portion of your gap analysis, right? A portion you want to automate, and you want to take that portion and integrate it into your regular meeting schedule. But you want to automate things that your client actually cares about. Depreciated assets, great conversation. Are the assets not out of warranty, but are they end of life? Do they need to be replaced within the next year? Do you have non-standard equipment? Do you have an old Compaq ProLiant server sitting out there that's maybe like 15 years old and it has critical data on it? And so we need to put that on as a project. Do you have firewalls that are no longer supported? Maybe they're not a layer 7 firewall, so they're not filtering for some of the more advanced stuff that's coming through these days. These are things you can automatically look for and are a waste of your time to go into your PSA and scan for. You have to have a tier 3 engineer go in, evaluate the inventory, and look for these things. So there are a number of tools, like your RMM has some great ways to do this and find your projects. But you need it in your project management tool. Thus, why we suddenly decided that our gap analysis tool, which was manual before, needed to become automatic for certain items. So in this situation, like you take a networking one, I want to know in my client where they don't have FortiGate firewalls. It's going to immediately create a project recommendation and attach those assets to that project. It's going to score them if it's not true. If it is true, it's going to give them 100 points. It's fantastic. And so in this situation, if it's a firewall that does not contain a manufacturer of FortiGate, I'm going to flag it. We also have some like Dell PCs down here. Like if the object is like server, oh man, Richard, what are you doing? Come on, man, you're going to pollute me. I'm going to delete that out of there. So you can come down here and you can ask questions on networking or on infrastructure on your PCs. You create your own categories and what you actually care about. So the manufacturers like Dell, we want to replace it. So if we say the manager is not equal to Dell, we want to replace it, right? And you can add in things like when the warranty is greater than, if or install date is clear, is greater than. Keep going down the list. Richard's watching out there. I think if he wants to chime in of things that he cares about, then let us know. But when you come down here now, instead of asking this question manually, instead of having a technician going in there and like looking through the inventory for non-Dell, you can come into Acme and you can ask and evaluate on a regular basis. So go down to your smart scores, and now you can see all of these rules that we've created. Now it's our test environment, so we got about 1 billion of them, and I can run the assessment. I can say, show me all of these. So I'm just going to select all of them because I don't want to mess this up. The point is, so it's going to bring up these 3 projects. It's going to attach a bunch of assets to them. This is done, right? Now comes the hard part. You actually have to talk to your customer and see if this is a valuable thing. Oh, looks like we still got all PCs in there. So every one of their Dell PCs is getting replaced because we're going to replace them with Compaqs. Anyways, they come in here and they're added onto your roadmap, but it's added in context. So as a white space analysis goes, you have this giant context to worry about. Look at all these projects we have in here. Now, how do these new projects prioritize in here? Some of these are going to absorb them. Some of them are going to move forward. You can see here we have a giant list of laptops and PCs that need to be replaced that are Dell. So let's go ahead and ask the client, what's troubling you lately? And they would say, well, we do have a lot of old PCs, but we have this great grant coming up. So if we can figure out a refresh cycle on these PCs, we think we can use this grant to pay for all of them. Awesome. Guess what? We have a project over here that will do that for you. Or say, you know what? Not right now. Can we break this up for over multiple months? You have a talking point now that you build a relationship with your client to say, how do we help you be successful? Given all of these IT projects, and given this is only 10% of what you're dealing with every day, what do you want to prioritize? Here are the assets that are depreciated. Here's the firewalls that are end of life. Here are the printers that should have died in 99. Now, what do you want to do about this stuff? If you're okay with it, then let's put it as a risk on your risk register or move it into some kind of technical debt project that we can slowly chip away year over year. But then let's also work on, how do we work from home? How do we create a better workplace? How do we make a better system for checking and check out? What are things that we need to do to help your business succeed? This is just one piece of it. But we've had a fun time playing around with these automated assessments. And I guarantee you, I'm going to get a bunch of questions here in sales calls like, oh, it automates. Can I now automatically send this to my client? Can I automatically give them this giant list of things to do so I don't have to talk about it? No.
Well, so there's a great little point there. So if you are looking at an environment and they've got every manufacturer of laptop out there, and you want to write a rule or just assess your clients and go, look, you guys have 14 different models of laptops from 4 different vendors. Why don't we consolidate this down? Now, there's lots of technical reasons that pop off in your mind about that, but why would your client want to do that? Why would they want to take a laptop that is technically working and replace it with yet just another laptop that's going to work? Well, you need to communicate a business value to that. Do they have issues when they're checking out laptops and one performs different than another, or one will support a software application, but someone gets a different laptop and it doesn't support it? Or you have laptops that break, someone drops it, and now they're in a hurry, they need another one, but the one you issue them doesn't match up with what they had. There's all sorts of operational efficiency on your client's side. And you're able to say, look, if we standardize on like 2 models of laptops, then anytime something happens and we need to replace that, we can do that in like minutes, and you guys can be on your way. And in your conversations with them, they're going to be able to identify key areas where, oh yeah, we missed a flight because we had someone waiting on another laptop because they had to have this thing so they could travel with it or whatever. And it just broke parts of their business. It made their lives much more difficult. But if you are able to identify, hey, I can make your team work better, then they see a value in taking a functioning laptop and replacing it with yet another functioning laptop. But the efficiencies are there.
But now you have the opportunity to discuss. Just don't force a gap on your customers. Yes, you identified it. It's like how in your office, one of the gaps in your office, right? My office right now is that my desk is a mess. I need to deal with it. Does that mean I need to stop everything I'm doing and clean this desk off? Well, eventually it's going to reach that urgency status when I can't find my keyboard. But for now, I can live with it because I'm doing other things. Your client is the same way, but they need to know what the opportunities are in front of them. And you need to help them understand here are the technical priorities based upon what you've told me about your business. And by you doing gap analysis, you're sitting there with 10,000 things in the back of your head. They've been organized through automatic assessments and through priority schedules you have in your own environment. And when you walk to the client, you're taking those top 10 and walking to them saying, here are the 10 things I think is going to help you grow, help you operate more efficiently based upon what you've told me. So 10,000 things in your head, ask the client what they need to do, what their biggest risks are, what their biggest sources of revenue are, and then reorganize those things into the top 10 that are going to help them. So the automated assessment is really to help you make sure you're not missing something in their environment because humans make mistakes, and it's to help you prioritize that schedule. But that priority doesn't come in until after you've had a good conversation with your client.
Yep. Yeah.
I love this topic. As I say with almost every day, I love all these topics. I just love talking. And so check out our new automated assessments. If you're a current member, check them out. If you're not a member, get a trial and check it out and look for lost revenue. What you should see if you're like any corporate IT environment, once you start doing automated assessments, when we start building these SQL queries, we find is that the human tends to skip over things, and they have reasons to skip over things. But now they're on the table. Now the revenue is there. Now we see what's going on. And it's according to what I wanted to see as a gap. And now I can talk about the right ones with my business managers so that they can make the right decisions rather than being caught off guard later.
Yep. Well, and there's, we focused kind of a lot on the one-time events, but this is something that you can make part of your workflows. I know a lot of times we're looking at software renewals or maybe warranty or something, and we go in and we evaluate a client like, yeah, they're all good, but there's a time frame to that all good status, right? If you've got Meraki gear, I don't know how many stories I've heard about these surprise Meraki bills popping up, and MSPs are having to go to their customer going, here's this $30,000 bill. You need to pay it in the next 42 days or all your equipment's going to quit working. And those are really rough conversations. So you can also structure this so that, yes, it does an analysis and we're all good right now. But once you get a workflow going here, then you're going to be able to say, oh, this one was good last month, but now I'm getting an alert that says this is not going to be good in 11 months. I need to get this on the roadmap to make sure that we're setting expectations. I don't have any surprise bills. We've got good budget for this going forward. And so this becomes an evergreen process that you continue to work with. So don't think of it as just a one-time event. You're going to implement this and then keep this going to stay on top of it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think this is great, every guys. Let's check this in. Please look into the stuff. Even if you're not using our tool, look into an automated assessment. But only automate the tactical items. Don't automate the human items. Don't take the human out of the conversation when it comes to talking to your clients. You all don't talk to your clients enough, and you know this. Stop finding ways to talk to them less.
Yes.
All right. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll see you all next week.
See you.